Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. My name is Steve Jagger. I graduated from Vancouver College in 1996, and I'm the co-president of the Alumni Association along with Mark Reed. The Vancouver College Alumni Association is a member-driven organization aimed at bringing all alumni together. We run a whole bunch of events, the annual alumni golf tournament, there's an Irish Christmas lunch, the hockey game, fishing derby, basketball. There's lots of events. Anybody that's been watching this webinar series knows everything has been canceled for 2020 due to COVID. And instead of not doing anything, we decided to move forward with a webinar series as a way to interact with alumni from around the world in different industries and connect with them to learn a little bit more about who they are and what they are working on. Before I introduce our guests, a couple housekeeping items. If you're on Facebook, you can ask questions in the comments. If you're on Zoom, you can ask questions in the chat, and I can ask those questions for you to our guests. A bit of a special announcement. The Mahoney's, Pat Mahoney, who owns Uno Gelato, has put together a bit of a program for us. Starting August 1st, any Uno Gelato bought on the Uno Gelato website and shipped to wherever you live in British Columbia, or wherever they serve it. Actually, I think it's British Columbia. I think Lower Mainland and the Okanagan area. $1 of every pint will go to the Vancouver College Alumni Association to support the alumni-owned restaurants that we have been supporting through this webinar series. So that program will start August 1st. You can go to unogelato.com and their shop is online and you can make your purchase. And like I said, August 1st, $1 from every pint ordered online goes to the VC Alumni Association. So let's get started. I want to introduce our guests. Today we have Prabhjeet Singh Bal, who graduated in 1996, is the CEO and COO of Lotus Terminal Group of Companies, taking over from his father, the founder. His brother Ricky is also joining us, graduated from Vancouver College in 2006, is the in-house counsel and part of the operations team at the Lotus Group of Companies. Lotus Terminals is one of the largest cross-dock freight logistics and trucking companies in Greater Vancouver. So thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us, and welcome to this webinar.
Yeah, happy to be here. Hello, yeah.
So I've got lots of questions. We can get into them in a minute. I have no idea what crossdock means, but maybe we can start at the beginning and get a quick update about you guys and, why did you get, how did you end up at Vancouver College? Why did your parents choose to enroll you there? What was the start? What years did you come?
Well, I came in grade 8, and quite honestly, I didn't even know about Vancouver College till grade 7. I went to St. Joseph's Elementary School with Jan Prezo, Rafi Orlova, Francis de la Cruz. We were there. We went to VC for a basketball game, and it was an awesome school. And the other guys, they're like, "This is amazing. This is where we're coming, grade 8." I'm like, "Well, if you guys are going, that's where I'd like to go too." And that's how I ended up there. Pretty much, yeah.
And what grade? Sorry.
Grade 8.
Grade 8. And then Ricky, how did you end up there? Following your brother's footsteps?
Exactly it. Yeah. Obviously, VC's got big sports programs. They got all their gear. Prab was always wearing it and telling me how I didn't have any of it. And all I could think of was going to VC all through elementary school. I was at St. Joseph's as well. I remember on the back of my little Hillary notebooks, I had I would make big VC signs on them, and I guess eventually everyone realized I want to go to VC. So in grade 4, I moved over.
Oh, nice. Nice. And so how did you like it? What was if you could name a teacher, did you have a favorite teacher, a favorite thing that you did at the school?
Well, me personally, I had the opportunity of playing football and basketball there. And just being around the teams basically throughout the year, that was an amazing experience. And in terms of teachers, one person who really stands out is Mr. Howie. His English class was really good. The way he taught it, it was fun doing Shakespeare stuff. And even for football, the way he coached, it really made me want to play. And we were going up to a game up in Kamloops on my birthday. I'm sitting in the bus, and when we pulled over in Hope, he bought a cake for me into the bus. which Nick Berardi dropped. But yeah, it was good. So he was really special for me while I was at the school.
Nice. Nice. How about you, Ricky?
Likewise, there's more teachers that I liked there than that I didn't so much, but a couple stand out. One was, he was only there for a few years, actually. My grade 8 teacher, homeroom teacher, Mr. Clayton, he had an accident at a school field trip, and we had a substitute come in for most of the year who stayed there, Mr. Dharma Satya. He's at Notre Dame now, and he was like loved history, and that's how I really his love of history like kind of transferred over to all his students, and it kind of made it cool to like work really hard at school, whereas before like school, but he kind of instilled that passion of learning and history and all that. And the other teacher that really stands out for me is Mr. Burke. Besides being like one of the best football coaches I've ever had, and that I try to emulate, at least for like lineman work, he just knew young men, and he knew how to teach them how they had to be taught, how they had to be disciplined, and maybe some methods which don't work anymore. But yeah, and he really stands out for me.
Nice. That's great. And so you guys both played football and basketball?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, both of you, right. And then so after Vancouver College, I believe you both head off to UBC, right? Prab, obviously you went first. Why'd you choose UBC?
Quite honestly, because it was down the road. I would go down King Edward and down Dunbar, and I'd be there. And I take early classes, and I'd be done around noon. It was perfect.
Nice. And did you play sports there?
I played football for my last couple of years there.
But not the first.
No, I decided to concentrate on my studies, and after the first year, actually, Aiden Sullivan, he asked me, let's go play for the Vancouver Trojans. So we went and played for the Vancouver Trojans, and that was some bad football when Steve, you played with us for the one season too. And from there, I just kind of ended up playing for UBC.
After the Trojans, nice.
Yeah.
And then Ricky, you went to UBC as well. What did you do there, or why did you choose UBC?
Well, for my first year, I sort of did a kind of like an exchange program through UBC in England at Herstmonceux Castle. And after that, I tried my hardest not to go to UBC, but my dad didn't let me go anywhere else. And so that's why I went to UBC, and I did a classics degree there. My second year there, I was on the football team, and I stopped playing in spring training pretty much because the VC program had spoiled me, and the experience was so great, and the camaraderie was amazing at VC. And then I got to probably not the best time at UBC football, and so I kind of stopped playing at that time.
Gotcha. So you guys do your time at UBC. Prab, you go from UBC, and you ended up at Lotus, but what happened between that, or did you go straight into the family business?
No, from while I was at UBC and in between there, your dad, Mr. Jagger, he helped me get a job at Royal Bank.
You can call him Bruce now, probably.
He's still Mr. Jagger. He still gets the respect. So we started working there, and the interesting thing I found there was I'd go there and start working, and I had to make X amount of calls, which I'd be done by lunch. And after lunch, I'd go make more, and I'd double those calls. I had people coming up to me, stop doing that. You're making us look bad. Like, yeah, but I'm just sitting here working. And they're like, no. So I'm like, if I'm done by lunch, can I leave? Yeah, just leave. And for me, it was just dull, and I couldn't do it. It wasn't a challenge. People, just the whole concept of people not wanting to push forward, it didn't work for me.
This is the collection division.
Yes.
Yeah. I spent some good time in the debt collection in my early days, as you know.
Yes.
Cool. And so you go from Royal Bank debt collection. Where do you go after that?
I was just kind of bored around the house, and my dad said, why don't you come to the office? So I started going there. every summer in between, from elementary school forever, I used to go to the office, and during the summer do some work, just hang out. And I went with the same attitude there. And one day I showed up around 10 o'clock, rolled in, and my dad pretty much kicked me out of the office. And he said, if you can't be here for 7, don't bother coming. And he yelled at me in front of everybody. And I've been going in at 7 or earlier since then.
Nice work. And so to tie this together, you do your time at Royal Bank, your dad convinces you or gets you to start going to work at Lotus. You're now CEO, COO. Ricky, when did you, maybe can you bring it together for us? When did you get to the Lotus world? And what did you do prior to that? And then how did you get there? And then we can talk a little bit about, what's going on at in Lotus.
Yeah, I went to law school at UBC, finished up there, and I was involved in some clinic programs at UBC, and then I articled and practiced in criminal defense work for just under 5 years, and I always knew what's happening in the family business. It is a family business. They were expanding exponentially. We were building our first commercial building for housing our headquarters, and I sort of felt like it was a time to make the transition. I always knew in the back of my head somehow I would be in our company here. I just didn't know when, and that it just sort of happened. It was just a discussion with my dad, being like, "Oh yeah, we can use some help with some construction. Maybe just be with us for a year." And now a few years later, I'm still here.
You're fully engaged in the business.
Yeah.
All right. So the two of you are working together at Lotus. Maybe let's start at the beginning, because I've got obviously a lot of questions because I don't know a lot about cross-docking, logistics, trucking. But maybe start at the beginning. The company's called Lotus. Where does the name come from?
So my dad had a different company, and we evolved. There were some partners involved. We got rid of some partners. And actually, I was in London, England at the time, sitting on top of a double-decker bus with my wife and talking to my dad on my cell phone. And we were trying to come up with a company name. And in front of the bus, there was a blue Lotus car. And I said, "How about Lotus?" And that's where Lotus came from.
Nice. That's awesome. Okay. And so what was the origin story of the business? How did your dad get into, like, why trucking? How did that start? Where did the business come from? How did that all begin?
Actually, it goes way back to my grandfather. My grandfather in India, he had a taxi company. So my grandfather drove a cab, owned the company. And while my dad was in India, he would drive a cab. And he came over into Canada when he was 18 years old. He had various jobs, picking apples, driving cab, working in parking lots. Then he started driving a truck because one of his friends drove a truck, and he bought his own truck. And he bought another truck. And then time came, he had enough work to get a third truck, and he had to come into the office a little bit. So he formed the company. And basically it was one man, one truck, and we've been working since.
That's awesome. And so what year did that start when he got into that? Like actually set up the corporation to get in the trucking business?
1980.
1980. Wow. Cool. And so when you guys were at school and at VC and university, was there always pressure from the parents to be in the business, family business, or was that
the opposite?
No, opposite. It was, my mom said, don't go near trucking. Even when I would go there in the summer, she would, nope, don't go there. Even my dad didn't want me around trucking. But here we are.
Same for you, Ricky? Just don't be around it. Don't.
Oh, absolutely. And 100%. My mom would be, don't go near trucking. Even my dad would be, same thing, don't go near trucking. But I guess, there's always a feeling that he built something and we need to continue it on, because the struggle when he had started, when he came in the early 70s, and actually the whole driving tradition in my family started even before my grandfather's taxi company. He was in the Second World War in Africa in the British Indian Army, driving as a soldier. And Montgomery's army there, and then he was a driver for the I believe it was the American ambassador in India. He was a driver for them, and then it slowly started. So just kind of continuing the tradition. There's always this calling that we're supposed to do it, even though we're being told not to do it. We're supposed to do it.
Great, that's awesome. And so you guys decide to step into the business. And what was the business when your dad was running it? It was a bunch of trucks and truck drivers moving freight around the city or around Lower Mainland or into the US? Like what did the business look like and what did it do before you guys got involved?
So when I came in, we had about 15 trucks and we were an intermodal carrier. So by intermodal carrier means we are one cog of the big picture. So containers arrive by train. We pick them up by train, take them to destination, or we load here, put them on the train, then the train takes them somewhere out east. Another trucking company grabs it from there. So we were an intermodal company servicing the Lower Mainland and working off the Seattle ramps up as well, coming into the Lower Mainland.
And so before we move to what it is today, how does that work when containers coming on a train? How do you get the contract? Is the contract given to you in the Vancouver end the same contract that's given to the person on the East Coast end? Like how does it? Do you fight for the deal? How does that all play out?
So there are something called intermodal marketing companies. Basically, they're people sitting in offices throughout mostly the U.S. and they're the ones with the railroad contracts, and they're the ones who hire us. So if you had something to move, you would go to this intermodal marketing company that I want to move something from Chicago to Vancouver. They would hire the carrier in Chicago to take it to the rail there. They would hire the rail, pay for the rail to get it up here, and then hire us to deliver it on this side. And in terms of, there's a lot of competition where we're submitting rates yearly to our various customers, and every year we try to win the business.
And so that intermodal company, if someone's trying to move product from A to B, that intermodal company deals with, they negotiate, they get it from A to B and they just figure it out, from trucks to trains to whatever. They just make it all happen.
Correct.
Like cobble together all the different contracts to make it all work.
Yes.
Gotcha. And so when you guys got into the business, that's what Lotus was. And then what is it now?
Let Ricky.
Well, before sort of I got involved, Prab expanded the 15 trucks to about, I would say, just under 100 trucks, and with a couple hundred trailers and whatnot. So it exponential growth, and then there's sort of a ceiling in this type of business. And when I came, I was involved in the construction of our office and our terminal there. And after that was all done, I was there's nothing for me to do there anymore. And I felt like I need to do something. I just wound down a full law practice. I was a full functioning lawyer. I need to do something. I can't do office work. I was a criminal defense lawyer. I was never in my office. I can't sit down. Even right now is pretty tough. And growing up, when I used to go to the office every single weekend with my dad, and I would be in the yard or be in the truck shop. And I just love machines. And so this sort of evolved into, we're calling it Crossdock, but it's mostly freight handling, a freight handling business. So what we started to do was like if let's say a large CNC machine comes from China.
What's a CNC machine?
A machine that works on metal, for example, like that bends metal or anything, just a big widget.
Okay.
1,000 pounds, whatever it is. It comes from overseas and it needs to get to Ontario. It comes to the Vancouver ports and it comes in a type of trailer which is meant for a ship. That needs to then be picked up, brought somewhere, and the actual machine then needs to be picked up and put on a type of trailer that can be taken to Ontario, an over-the-road trailer. So you need forklifts or whatever it is to do that. We started getting into that business, and I been driving a forklift since probably too young, 4 years old. And we got into the freight handling business. We just had a small forklift. We can pick up a couple thousand pounds. So let's say a pallet of paper gloves or paper bags comes. We take them out of an ocean container, put them into an over-the-road container. And that sort of morphed into a freight logistics business. Well, customers are asking us, can you take it all the way to Ontario? On our own assets, on our own trucks, they stay in the lower mainland, BC and Washington, a little bit into Tacoma, Portland, Oregon. And so then we start becoming the middleman and hiring those type of trucking companies to take it from our warehouse and take it the final mile from Vancouver to Ontario. So that sort of started developing. It was just sort of, I was doing like with Prab's and everyone's help. I was doing sales, operations, invoicing. Again, I'm on a computer, but whatever. And that started to expand. We started getting bigger lifting equipment. We can start doing 30, 40, 50,000 pounds. So from a simple couple thousand pound pallet, now we can almost lift anything at our terminal. And we've got right now it's about a 10-person staff. We've been at it for about 2 years. We got staff of 10. And basically when something comes anywhere in North America, if it needs to move from Florida to Alaska, we can handle it. If there's a 75,000 pound bulldozer that gets made overseas, gets brought in over a ship, we can bring it to our facility, pick it up, put it on a over-the-road trailer, and take it down to Florida. We hire a company to take it down to Florida, and we put it on their trailer, and we monitor it on the way down to Florida. And so we've sort of become this freight logistics, freight management company, a freight handling company, and Crossdock is a part of freight handling.
That's interesting. And so this massive, whatever it is, bulldozer comes in on a ship. The crossdock part is when you're taking it out of whatever it was in the ship and transferring. That's the crossdock piece of the deal. And then you said if it's going to Florida, is that trucking company coming up into Vancouver, or are you guys meeting them at the border, or do they come all the way up, get it themselves, and take it?
They come up to our terminal where we have all our lifting equipment and everything. We put it on their trailer, off the ocean vessel trailer, like a regular ocean container, whatever it is. And then they take it from our yard to the final destination.
Gotcha. And so you got into that. Why? Because there's more value in that part of the business than being the truck that just moves it. Like the actual cross-dock business is a higher up on the value chain.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, my biggest issue was with trucking, with actually asset-based moving freight around. Anybody can open a trucking company. You could go tomorrow. You can actually look online right now, and within a couple of hours, you can have your licenses to own a trucking company and start one. And that's what people were doing, were just starting trucking companies. And we were competing with people who did not have any facilities. They just owned a truck, and them and their cousins started a company, and we were competing with them. So what could we do where we could use our brains and grow? So this is where we ended up, that some guy working out of his backyard cannot do all this. And so that's how we ended up getting into this, because we needed to do more. And this is the kind of stuff that somebody can just wake up one morning and decide to do.
Got it. And so this cross-dock part of the business, when you're picking up these super heavy things, is it those big things on wheels that can pick it up, or is it just massive forklift? How do you move it?
We've got large forklifts. We have cranes at our facility, and between those two, that's how we pick most of things up.
And so when you get into that, do you start with a certain weight limit of like, okay, we're going to buy the right machines to pick up this weight, and then once you're successful and you're good, you buy the next larger machine? Or how do you keep scaling up to be able to take heavier and heavier stuff?
Ours was organic growth. Many companies, like they're just different markets. Like you can have the smallest forklift you can buy, and you can have 100 of them and just do high volume type of work. It's a bit more of a brainless type business. You just, as many as you can, pallet, like regular pallets that you see in Costco, just move them from an ocean container into a trailer that's going to Costco, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of days. So you can build your business on that. We were more interested into the more niche markets, the bigger things, where you actually have to use your brain more, like you have to be creative and innovative. And that's sort of why we scaled to a heavier, instead of going volume, we started going more niche and specialized work rather than volume.
Gotcha. And so, like, what are the big challenges outside of COVID? I think we'll talk about that in a minute, but pre-COVID, what were the big challenges, or what are the big challenges in this freight logistics trucking world? What, you know?
I'll start with the freight logistics world and freight handling. Honestly, in the freight handling world, it's just meeting the demands of customers. Everyone wants their stuff prioritized and done first, but when you're picking something up which is barely fits on city streets and weighs tons and tons of weight, you got to do it slowly and properly. And it's just managing expectations. In freight logistics, another part of freight logistics is when you hire outside carriers to, for example, take it from our yard to Florida, you got to keep track of them. We got to tell our customers a couple times a day, okay, your truck's in Seattle, okay, it's got to Portland. The missing link is when the company that we've hired stops responding to us. And we're like, oh my God, we have $1 million product and we don't really know where it is. Eventually they come back to us being like, oh, our truck was, whatever the reason may be, it was in a no service area, we couldn't tell you, whatever it is. That's sort of the challenges of freight logistics and handling in particular. And Prab was about to say, just generally in transportation, what are the challenges?
In general, in transportation, basically starts from the truckers. Nobody leaves high school saying, I'm going to go be a truck driver. It just doesn't happen. And so we end up with interesting kind of individual who becomes a truck driver. They're usually miserable that they're a truck driver, even though they're making great money, but still, because it's been put into our heads that being a truck driver, it's not that great. So they're miserable. And
society basically sort of, I shouldn't say dictates, but at least from my experience, it's not very high on the totem pole, a truck driver. It's not a really something that you...
Like a prestigious role.
Right.
Yeah. So we end up with these guys, and literally when I was younger and started, I was in situations where it was a physical fight would break out because things weren't happening. And even as recent as a couple of years ago, I let one of the truck drivers go, and he brought 2-3 guys into the office because he wanted to fight. And that's the kind of people we're dealing with, and it's not getting any better.
That doesn't sound good. Yeah, and so I've got a couple of questions on this, but trucking's the largest employer, I believe, in the United States. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's up there, or if not, number one. Is it not? Do you know?
Yeah, United States, there's a different kind of trucker down there. There you have the stereotypical guy wearing his cowboy hat, big belt buckle, cowboy boots, walking around the truck stops. They're proud to be a trucker. They take care of their truck. They like the chrome on their truck. They buy the T-shirts. If you ever are down south in the U.S., if you go to a truck stop, you'll see all this interesting people walking around. Their walls are full of belt buckles. They're proud of what they're doing. Up in Canada, I'm sure you've looked into trucks and seen what kind of guys are driving. It's a big employer, but people aren't happy. They don't want to do it, but they're stuck doing it because they make good money doing it. Which doesn't make sense.
Gotcha. That's interesting that it's different perspective of it over the border. All right. So we'll I think we'll come back to that in a sec. Maybe can I sort of switch gears for a sec? Can you explain how does the revenue work? Like, how do you make money? Is it based on the weight of the item you're moving at the crossdock, the distance the truck has to go, if they sit in traffic, if there's tolls? Like, how does that all get sorted out?
It's a big combination of everything. There's truckers who get paid by the mile, by the hour, and there's even out there who get paid by the weight. When they're picking up scrap and gravel, they get paid by how much weight they've picked up. In terms of traffic and all, customers do not pay for any. If there's too much traffic, they're not going to pay. If we're crossing the border and there's a 4-hour lineup, too bad.
I was just going to say, so if there's a big lineup at the border, that most likely is that trucker is losing money because of it. It's not like he or she is going to get paid more because of the delay. They're actually like actively losing money.
So us as a company, we will not get paid more, but as an employer, we can make a deal with our guys that if you have to wait more than 2 hours, we'll pay you X.
Huh. That's very interesting. And so I want to switch over to the COVID thing, but before I do that, what are the things that people like me or everyday citizens don't know about the trucking business? Some of the examples I can think of are like, and Ricky kind of mentioned it, if you bring something that doesn't necessarily fit on a city road, like how does that work? If you have to take down power lines?
Well, I got an interesting story. We picked up this, we were hired to pick up this huge piece from Surrey Docks in Surrey. So we had all the surveys done. The river road there was wide enough to handle it. The police wasn't, we had police escorts.
Yeah, so just to sort of fill in the blanks a bit, as a part of our expanding freight handling and whatnot, getting into more niche markets, we started actually trucking on our own assets locally in Lower Mainland, big things, which need specialized drivers, specialized equipment and all that. And if it gets really big, you need engineers reports. You have a pilot car that drive in front of you and the back of you. If it gets really big, you have hydro lines that need to get moved. You've got the police escort you along the way.
And you coordinate all of that, or is that you bring in a consultant that coordinates that for you, or is that all done? You guys do all that?
That's us, yeah.
Yeah, wow. So well, quite honestly, we have Ricky. So Ricky can handle all that stuff because he's just not some guy out of school who joined trucking like me. He's actually a professional, so he can make all that happen for us.
That's so, Prab. So if you're moving something massive and you think or you know that you have to move power lines, is someone literally driving the route in advance to figure out what lines where? And
yeah, so
they can give an accurate quote of like, all right, these 46 lines need to be moved. This bus cable needs to be moved. All that stuff happens in advance. That you add that into the quote and then send it off.
Yeah, so we add that into a quote, we send it off, and we've hired professionals. So in this one scenario I was talking about, it was a huge piece. It was happening in the middle of the night, and I get a call about 2 a.m. from my driver that they measured River Road and everything was great except they didn't account for the bus stops. And the police escort with them.
The physical metal shelter.
The shelter.
Yeah.
So, and he said that the police officer is just waving me through. So long story short, we went down River Road, knocking over every single bus stop in the way. But what could you do? This piece had to move and we only had a certain amount of time.
And so how does that work? Insurance picks up the slack, or?
Yeah, we went after the surveyor and all that, and after the city, and actually nothing ever came of it. Just kind of
for you. Somebody, I'm sure, had to build some bus stops.
I'm sure.
Awesome. So that's where Ricky's legal experience kicks in.
Exactly.
Nice. So I don't know about nice, but so switching over to the COVID side of things, COVID kicked in. I don't know, depending on when you were affected by it. People, it could have been December, it could be January, it could be March. But How has COVID affected your business?
Well, us personally, we've been lucky when the whole COVID situation hit. With me, with our business, if we have about 100 people working for us, I feel responsible for all those 100 people. And these 100 people, these are their primary income. They're their household's primary income. So it always bugs me or that I'm responsible basically for about 300 people. If the average person has a family of 3, I'm responsible for everybody. So March 15th, we sent everybody home, and I started coming in extra early, and I got to work, finding customers, talking to people, while everybody else was running around. The sky is falling. We got to work, and we were lucky enough that we did not have to lay off anybody, and everybody stayed. And now, as we're coming out of COVID, we've actually hired people because we are busier than we were before, just because we got to work instead of just being scared that we're going to die, because we had to work. In terms of transportation as a whole, trucking was an essential service, so everybody kept rolling. But the biggest issue was that, for example, if we need to pick up some apples down in California, before we take a shipment of paper down to California, deliver the paper, bring back the apples. But now the paper mills were closed. So these trucks were going empty down to California, picking up the apples and bringing them back, because apples have to come. You had the contracts. But the rates couldn't change because the final consumer, like all of us, if we went to the store during COVID and the prices of apples went up, people would go crazy.
Right.
So all these empty miles, there was a cost to it. So that's where trucking was affected, because of the empty miles.
So that's super interesting, because I didn't consider that when I was writing out this question or thinking about it. I thought you were going to say something to the effect of, because traffic had basically dropped off, the trucks were moving faster and more efficiently. But I didn't consider that some of them are running now empty because of whatever the freight was not deemed essential, or the wherever it was going was closed down. So even with the traffic moving faster and the border lines faster, it still was a negative, or a sort of a lost position from normal.
Yeah, so borders were open for truckers, but they had reduced staff at the border. So it's not like we were getting through faster. They reduced staff. Instead of 3 lanes being open, 1 lane was open for the truckers.
Right.
So nothing, yeah, there was a little bit of less traffic, but that doesn't really change much.
Wow. And so I've read a few news stories about truckers nervous about heading into the U.S., Canadian truckers heading into the U.S. just based on what's going on down in the U.S. Is that a problem or something you guys have faced with your team?
We were lucky. Our guys kept running. We had 2 or 3 older guys who are driving, and yeah, they parked their trucks, understandably, because they are higher risk.
Higher risk, yeah.
But our guys kept moving.
Huh. And there was no concern of truck stops were closed at some point, where I remember truck drivers had nowhere to stop, nowhere to get food. Most of the restaurants were drive-through only, and you're not bringing your big rig through McDonald's drive-through. Like, were any of those things like big problems for them?
So with my guys, our drivers, we talked to them, and they were scared that they don't know what's going to happen, and they felt lucky that they were still working. And I would say, everything good? You guys, everything going fine? Yeah, great. And we just kept rolling. We didn't get into details. My job is to get them work, and their job is to get it done. And we understood that, and we just pushed through.
My job is to, one of my jobs is to reduce liability. So
that's because you're the lawyer in the family.
Exactly, unfortunately, to my brother's chagrin there. And so we tried to put in as many procedures as we could, getting the truck sanitized, giving the drivers sanitizer, getting them gloves, trying to change instead of getting paperwork signed by wherever you're going to deliver or pick up, we just get their names. They're just trying to change as many procedures as we can, so there's as much distancing and as less interaction as required.
Right. And so is work from home a thing in your business? I know obviously like you guys have a headquarters and an office and a team there. Did that how are those people affected?
So March 15th, we sent everybody home. Even before that, when I moved back to Vancouver, I wanted to work from home as much as I could. So I moved a lot of our systems into the cloud, including our phone system. And so that day we decided to go home, we picked up our stuff, or the staff did, picked up their laptops, went home and started working right away. So we were fine. The only difference is when you're working together in the same office as a team, you hear things and you help each other out. We missed that. So as soon as we could, we brought everybody back.
Gotcha. So for those out there in Zoom land, and there's a whole bunch of you in the Facebook world, and a couple questions have popped in. If you guys have any questions, throw them into the Zoom chat or the Facebook chat. But so Prab, Ricky, going forward, what is the future of trucking / freight logistics? What does that look like?
Automation, I would think, as drivers are, as Prab alluded to, harder and harder to find. I feel as though automation is the next big thing, basically self-driving trucks. And some articles I've read, sort of my thoughts would be these automatic trucks would go to hubs outside of major cities. They'd go in between these major hubs, and then you'd have people-driven trucks sort of doing the regional trucking, like
negotiate the city driving.
Exactly. Like if we have the main hub in Hope or Chilliwack, the trucks with the people driving pick up and do all deliver in Richmond, Vancouver, Surrey, wherever it is.
Right. And so do you think Tesla's, it sounds like Tesla's automated trucks are, and whoever else is working on, there's a few companies working on them. Those are exciting to you, not concerning for you.
Oh, absolutely. One of the, like Prab was mentioning, one of the challenges is getting drivers. So if we can move a widget from A to B without sort of the biggest hurdle, that's going to help. And it's not as though in other industries where you're taking people out of work, people don't want to do this work.
Yeah, that makes it hard. What do you know? I only know a little bit about Tesla's automated truck. The one I saw, it looks pretty sweet. Do you guys know, or if they come out with it at some point soon, are you prepared or wanting to like put in an order for some of these trucks, or you'd wait and see, let a few other companies try them out first, or how fast are you to jump in if Tesla starts offering that, or when Tesla starts offering that truck?
We would, based on our we only stay in BC, Washington. Our application, we wouldn't need them right away. We'd wait to get the kinks out, the big guys, the big, like 500 truck companies like in the US, the Walmarts of the world and all those guys. They can play around with them. And then when they're a bit more polished, I think is when we'd go at them.
Right. All right. So I've got a handful of questions that have come in from the people that are watching. They're kind of a little bit all over the place. So I'll ask you them as best I can in order. But Patrick Lee here on Facebook, he says, first and last mile transport really does make or break a product or service, with the myriad variables involved with every move and ever-changing government regulations. Knowledge, experience count for a lot. So these is not even a question. He's just saying nice things. This is full respect to Ricky and Prab. So thanks for that, Patrick.
Thank you.
Here's another one. What incentives are being put in place to electrify trucking? Outside, I guess we just talked about Tesla. Do you guys know, are there other options out there?
Nothing that has become made readily apparent to anyone. I personally really like the electric trucks because a brand new regular internal combustion truck is a very bad machine nowadays. there's been so many regulations. It has to be zero emissions, and all the zero emissions, burn less fuel, which are all good things. But these were mandated to be done within a few years. And quite honestly, now the machinery that's coming out, they're hunks of junk. And the warranty is the biggest thing in the world. Whereas these Tesla trucks, there's barely any parts in them. There's a electric motor at each axle. And if that goes bad, you put a new electric axle in, you're good to go. And so that's sort of really exciting. But as far as incentives and whatnot, not really. There's not much buzz around any sort of circles, at least that we're a part of.
And in general, the government and what we found, transportation's not a big deal for them. Even we've talked about automation and all that. Today we had an incident where we had to send a letter to Canada Customs at the border, and we called, asked for their email address, and they asked us to fax it. And we said, fax it, and they're like, yeah, we'll fax it over to us, and when we can, we'll fax it back to you. That's how far behind things are.
What's a fax? Just kidding. Yeah, that's terrible. Can't be fax machines.
We don't even actually own a fax machine.
I don't know who does.
Done through emails.
Yeah, I don't know who does. So a question came in here. It says, who are your Canadian customers? Like what types of companies? Are these big companies, small companies? How does it work? I know you mentioned a bit about the Crossdock side, but what kind of companies do you guys deal with?
We deal with all sorts. It could be just a guy who works out of his basement who does some importing, exporting. And we have big, huge customers who have huge towers in Chicago. So there's a wide range because everything around us, transportation brought. So there's a lot of people involved in transportation, and there's a wide degree of type of customer as well.
Right. And so is there a certain type of products that you do or do not transport? Like you talked about apples and paper, which is obviously a big difference in how those are transported and timing and heat and, I don't know, the time they're allowed to be in a truck, but what are the normal, is there a normal type of thing that you transport?
Nope. So with our own assets, we call ourselves a general freight carrier. We'll pretty much move anything. Apples, we wouldn't because our own assets, we don't have temperature controlled equipment, but we can get apples moved. We can get whatever you want moved, big or small.
Basically, the only thing we don't really touch is like bulk aggregates, meaning like gravel and dirt and that type of stuff. It's probably the only, and personal effects. Besides that, we could move. We move anything.
So a couple random questions. Can you move like live animals? Can you move, obviously you can move massive machines that require wires and stuff to be cut, but like are live animals a thing you can move? Someone wants to move a whole bunch of, I don't know, horses or something.
We can make arrangements, yes.
Really?
We've moved carcasses of animals, but
that kind of counts.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to move live animals yet.
Gotcha. So this question came in from Aiden Sullivan right there. Prab talked about being asset light. Do you own all the trucks, or do you work with individual owners and subcontractors?
We're both. We have our own trucks as well, which we own, and we employ drivers for them. And we also have guys who join us who own their own trucks, but they fly our colors. They're insured under our name. So we do both.
I think we've got time for a couple more here. This one's pretty bold. It says the U.S. is a complete mess. What precautions are you and your drivers taking to keep Canadians safe? So you kind of mentioned that, Ricky, earlier about the gloves and the cleaning of the trucks and all that. Is that the kind of stuff that is go forward? Is there more stuff coming? Is there precautions on how they deal at truck stops and the like?
Yeah, no, it's just the same things that most people do, the social distancing. Same thing you do when you go to a restaurant. You keep your distance. Our drivers have been instructed, trained to um, not to hand over paperwork, like make the notes yourself. Like when something gets delivered, you're supposed to get it signed from the person you're delivering it to. We've got a different process for that. We have no like tablets going back and forth. So it's mostly the standard sort of procedure as much as it's possible. Like when a guy has to go fuel, we have to trust that he'll follow not only common sense of washing your hands, but sort of our extra instructions that we've given them. Wear gloves. We've given hand sanitizer out. So it's just a general practice.
I've got three final questions. They're a bit sort of on the more unique end of the, well, I guess two of them are. The first one here is just, you mentioned fuel. How much, like, is when a trucker fills up with fuel, is it the same as diesel at a normal gas station? Or are there, when they go to those, I guess they're asking to go to those truck fuel stations, is it a different cost or different world in how the fuel works?
We get a bulk discount. So we have our cards, and the bigger the company, the cheaper the diesel form.
That's those card locks where you've essentially prepaid or guaranteed a certain revenue or liter purchase.
Right.
Gotcha.
It gets measured in each truck. When you fill it up, you go how many hundreds of liters or even how many hundreds of gallons are going in it. So it's just about the bulk. Yeah.
And who pays for that? You guys or the truck driver?
It depends how you worked out your rates. With us, our drivers get paid for the fuel, but because they're using our fuel cards, we take it away from them as well. We deduct it off their check.
Fuel spillage a thing where fuel finds its way into other people's vehicles?
It definitely happens, yes. But because of all the automation and stuff, we keep track of things like this truck is burning so much fuel per mile, and suddenly if there's a spike, we catch it right away.
And also just the physical infrastructure, the trucks, fill stations, diesel filler nozzles don't fit in most vehicles.
Gotcha. So two more have popped in on top of my last two. I'm going to try and squeeze them in here. Do you cooperate with competitors or kind of fight with them?
Fight with them.
You don't, if there's something big that a competitor could help with or whatever, you would find somebody else?
If we hire just the way our business is, if we hire a competitor to do something that they could do, we will get backdoored.
Backdoored meaning what? You won't get the business.
The next time they'll make contact with the customer and go direct.
It is unbelievably cutthroat. Like if you were even to like whisper who you're dealing with at a certain customer, next day they will be there.
Wow. Interesting. So this question is three words. It just says craziest truck story, ? What do you got?
Craziest. That's the one I mentioned where we took out the bus stop. That was fun.
We were involved with a transformer move, and transformers, these are like hundreds of thousands of pounds. We haven't gotten up to that level, but I was involved in this move, and it had to go down boundary towards Marine Way, and a regular truck on the road, the total weight is probably just under 100,000 pounds. This total weight was probably about 500,000 pounds going down a very steep hill. So there's an extra large truck pulling the freight down this transformer down the hill. There was 4 trucks chained behind the freight, hitting their brakes while going down and pulling the freight back. So you don't have 1 million tons going down a hill. That just sort of engineering, sort of like trucking marvels.
Yeah. All right. So final-ish question. I've stuck another one here, but this one came in earlier. Do truckers live in their trucks when they're on the move? Is that where they sleep? There's that bunk thing in the back.
So it depends on the run they're doing. So our guys, they work in town, they go to Seattle, Portland, they make it back in time to go home. But guys who are running across Canada, yeah, they sleep in the truck.
Wow. And I've never been inside of a big rig truck. Is it kind of set up like a motorhome? They've got, I don't know, water and bathroom and.
Depends on if they're really into it. They've got like cooktops. Everyone has a fridge now. Not so much running water, but they've got like systems for water, air conditioned. I've seen fireplaces. Everyone's got a TV in it. It's sort of as creative and as much as the guy wants to do.
But they have to watch it, not put too much in there because it'll add weight. And when you add weight, you burn more diesel. And you might not be able to pick up that extra amount of freight.
Right. All right. So we're almost out of time here. Would you guys suggest people to get into the trucking business as a trucker, which I feel like I know the answer, and into the trucking business on your level of just owning the business and the freight logistics, all of that? Would you do it again? Do you think people should get into it? What do you think?
If we can get a better quality of trucker, like a truck driver, this industry would be way better. And nobody wants to be a trucker because it's not prestigious, but we have guys who own 2-3 homes, own 2 Teslas, and they're doing well. And we see their paychecks. They're doing great. So being a trucker, it could be fun, especially a young guy coming out of school. You jump in a truck, you drive across North America, you see places you would not regularly see. It'd be fun. And in terms of what we do, it's tough because you need to trust a lot of people in your office. And like you mentioned before, everybody's looking to go out on their own. I've personally been lucky because I came in, my dad was running the company and I was the second guy, and Ricky came in, he's the third guy. And I think our success has come because there's 3 of us and we don't have to look over our backs. We trust each other and we're pushing forward together.
And are you guys in it for the long haul, as they would say? Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
No, we'll see. I really enjoy sort of the freight handling, all the like picking, like I've got my crane operator's license. So I'm sort of like, I'm trying to be on the ground, not in my office as much as I can. So it just depends on how the market goes and whatever opportunities are out there.
Awesome. This has been great, guys. Thank you. Thank you,
Steve,
Rob and Ricky, for doing this.
Thank you very much.
If people wanted to contact you, how would they go about doing that? What would be the best way? What's the website address or?
Website, lotusterminals.com. We're also on Facebook, and we're pretty easy to find. Just Google us.
Or pop by a Vancouver College football game and show up at the hot dog stand that is the big Lotus Terminals truck.
Yep.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, whenever those games start again, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you guys very much. Thanks everybody for joining us. We do these webinars every Wednesday, and they're on Zoom and on Facebook. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.